At 68, Gary stocks shelves at a hardware store 4 days a week. Not because he enjoys it, because his social security check covers rent and nothing else. Gary spent 33 years in a decent career. Mid-level management, steady raises, never missed a bill. Raised 2 kids, took vacations, drove cars he was proud of, lived in a neighborhood he felt he'd earned. From the outside, his financial life looked completely responsible. And somehow he ended up at 68, calculating whether this month's budget can cover both his blood pressure medication and his property tax. His college roommate, same graduating class, comparable salary for most of their working lives, retired at 62. 1.3 million in investments. Paid off house. Winters in Florida. Calls his grandkids on Tuesday mornings because he has nothing more urgent to do. Takes the long road home from the grocery store because he can. Reads until noon because nobody is waiting on him. $1,100,000 apart. Same starting line, same earning power, same decades of work. You want to know where that gap actually came from. Not a bad investment, not a divorce, not some medical catastrophe. It came from 1 decade of completely normal-looking decisions. Between 40 and 50. Decisions that felt responsible at the time. Decisions that looked from the outside like just living well. That's what should scare you. Gary never felt like he was falling behind. He felt like he was finally enjoying the success he'd earned. And by the time the math became undeniable, the window had already closed. Your 40s are not just another decade. They are the decade. The one that quietly determines whether you spend your 70s free or anxious. Whether you're the person planning trips or rationing prescriptions. And most people drift straight through them without understanding what's actually at stake. Here's why this specific decade carries that kind of weight, and I mean this mechanically, not motivationally. 3 financial forces align in your 40s in a way that never happens again. The math works exactly the same, whether you pay attention to it or not. First, peak earning power. For most professionals, income hits its ceiling somewhere between 42 and 55. The raise is slow, but the absolute dollars are the highest they've ever been. A 44-year-old earning $112,000 has more raw material for building wealth than at any previous point in their career. That window doesn't stay open, and it doesn't come back. Second, compounding time. At 40, you have 20 to 25 years before traditional retirement. A dollar invested at 40 roughly quadruples by 65 at historical market returns. Wait until 50, that dollar only doubles in a half. Wait until 55, barely doubles. The multiplier collapses fast. Your 40s are the last decade where compounding still has enough runway to do something significant. Money invested at 42 operates in a fundamentally different universe than money invested at 52. You cannot buy that difference back with higher contributions later. The window closes on schedule whether you're ready or not. Third, expense stabilization. By your 40s, the financial bleeding of your 30s slows. Kids need less constant spending. The mortgage that used to stretch you now fits the budget. That freed up margin either flows to savings or gets absorbed by lifestyle expansion. No third option exists. Peak income, compounding runway, stabilizing expenses. These 3 forces overlap once. In your 40s, the person who captures that alignment builds real wealth. The person who drifts through it faces a mathematical deficit that cannot be corrected later, regardless of how hard they try afterward. Gary tried. He saved aggressively through his 50s. It wasn't enough. The window had already closed. Now let me walk you through the 5 decisions that drove that outcome. And here's what I need you to hold as we go through these. None of them felt like mistakes at the time. Every single one looked completely reasonable. That's exactly what makes this so dangerous. The first decision, almost nobody talks about career risk. Most people assume the biggest financial mistakes happen at the cash register. They don't. They happen at the desk when you decide to stay comfortable instead of pursue growth. Your 40s present real windows for income acceleration. Senior roles at competing firms. Industries where your experience commands a premium. Equity positions at growing companies. But most people become more risk-averse in their 40s, exactly when they should be taking calculated risks. Here's something that doesn't get said enough. Staying in a comfortable job that stopped growing isn't neutral. It's a loss. Inflation runs at roughly 3% annually. If your salary isn't growing faster than that, your real purchasing power and your real ability to save is shrinking every single year. Staying comfortable isn't standing still. It's a slow, invisible tax on your retirement. One that never shows up on a statement but compounds against you just as reliably as returns compound for you. And by your early 50s, hiring discrimination starts narrowing options in ways that are real and persistent. The person who makes a strategic career move at 44 has time to recover if it doesn't work out. The person who waits until 54 often doesn't. The income gap between staying comfortable and actively pursuing growth can exceed 30 to 40,000 a year. Over 10 years, that's 3 to 400,000 in additional earnings before you even count what investing that difference does to your retirement balance. Your 40s are your last real window for income acceleration. Most people treat them as a time to settle in. That instinct is expensive. And because it's invisible, because you never see the salary you didn't earn, it's the trap that costs the most and gets noticed the least. The second decision is vehicles. Quieter than you'd expect, just as destructive. Your 40s often bring the first real luxury car purchase. The practical sedan gets traded for something that signals you've arrived. The reliable SUV gets replaced with something prestigious. A family running two $43,000 vehicles instead of two practical $26,000 vehicles carries more debt, pays higher insurance, faces more expensive repairs. Over a decade, accounting for replacement cycles, that vehicle premium costs somewhere between $150,000 and $300,000 in retirement wealth. A car feels like a car. It is a compounding decision, wearing a hood ornament. And because it feels small compared to a house, most people never do this math. They just feel the monthly payment and move on. The third decision is lifestyle inflation. And this is the one that ties everything together, because it's not really about money, it's about identity. Here's what nobody says about lifestyle inflation in your 40s. People aren't just buying nicer things, they're buying a version of themselves. The upgraded house isn't just more square footage, it's the house that says you made it. The luxury car isn't just transportation, it's confirmation that the sacrifices were worth it. The elaborate vacations aren't just travel, they're proof that your life looks the way it's supposed to look. And that's what makes it so hard to resist. Because you're not just fighting a spending habit, you're fighting an identity. The person who keeps the modest house isn't just making a financial decision, they're choosing to look like they haven't fully arrived yet. In a culture that reads net worth through visible consumption that takes real conviction. But here's the brutal truth about that identity purchase. People adapt to upgraded living standards within 18 to 24 months. The new baseline replaces the old one. The excitement fades. The confirmation you were seeking dissolves into just normal life. And what remains isn't the feeling of having made it. It's a reduced savings rate, higher monthly costs, and 25 years of compounding working against you instead of for you. The lifestyle that felt like a reward quietly becomes the mechanism of a constrained retirement. The fourth decision is children's education. And this is the one nobody wants to say out loud. Your 40s overlap with your kids' most expensive years. Some families take on Parent Plus loans exceeding $100,000 for out-of-state universities. Others drain retirement accounts. Others simply stop contributing during the college years, just temporarily, they say. But here's the uncomfortable math: your kids graduate into their peak earning years with their entire careers ahead of them. You are entering your final 2 decades of high income. The math is not symmetric. Sacrificing your retirement to fund their tuition doesn't help them as much as you think, and it can cost you everything. There's something else worth saying here. The families who spend beyond their means on their kids' education often do it because they want to give their children a better start than they had. That impulse is real and it's generous. But a parent who retires broke doesn't give their kids a better start, they give them a financial obligation. The greatest gift you can give your children isn't a prestigious degree. It's not becoming their financial burden at 70. The families who navigate this well make uncomfortable calls. State schools, merit scholarships, honest conversations about what the family budget actually supports. Retirement contributions that don't stop even when tuition pressure is real. The fifth decision is housing. This is where it all comes together, because this single choice can cost more than every other decision combined. In your 40s, the upgrade urge arrives with real justification. The kids need more space. You've worked hard and want a home that reflects it. The payment feels manageable, so a family moves from a $330,000 home to a $560,000 home. Monthly cost goes up roughly $1,500 to $1,900. Feels like a housing decision. It is not a housing decision. That $1,500 a month, invested instead over 25 years at historical returns, is somewhere between $850,000 and $1.1 million in retirement wealth. The family thinks they're spending an extra $1,700 a month on housing. They are actually spending $1 million on a retirement they will never have. That's not rhetoric. That's compounding arithmetic applied to a real number. And it's not just the money. The family that stays in the modest home gains something the other family permanently loses: options. Retire 2 years earlier. Work part-time in their 60s instead of full-time. Help a kid with a down payment. Absorb a medical emergency without catastrophe. The house upgrade doesn't just cost money, it costs freedom. In the exact decades when freedom matters most. Now I want to stop here for a second, because I want to be honest with you about something personal. I understand these traps from the inside. In my late 30s and early 40s, I was making most of them quietly, incrementally, always, with a reasonable justification ready. I wasn't reckless. I was just expanding. Every raise became permission to spend a little more. Every year I told myself I'd get serious next year. There was a specific night I was 42, sitting at my desk with a spreadsheet I'd been avoiding for months, when I finally ran the actual numbers. And what I saw wasn't disaster. It was drift. Years of small, invisible, completely justified decisions that had quietly stacked against me. No single catastrophic mistake, just the accumulated weight of 100 reasonable ones. That's when I understood the danger in your 40s isn't a blow up. It's the slow leak you never notice until the tank is nearly empty. Now let me show you exactly where these decisions lead through two couples who started at nearly the same place. At 40, Kevin and Lisa have $175,000 in retirement savings. Two kids aged 13 and 10, combined income of $160,000. Modest house, manageable mortgage. Doing fine by any measure. Brian and Sandra nearly identical. Combined income of $150,000. Retirement savings of $160,000. Two kids, 12 and 9. Similar house, similar neighborhood, similar careers, same starting line. Watch what happens. Kevin passes on a recruiter call at 43. The offer meant a $32,000 raise, but required switching industries. Feels too risky. Too much seniority to walk away from. 2 years later, they upgrade cars. $680 more per month between the two. Then the house, a newer development, better school district. Monthly cost up $1,650. Retirement contributions drop from 14% to 5%. Temporary, they tell themselves. The kids' high school years bring tutoring clubs, sports, college visits. When their daughter gets into an out-of-state school, they take a Parent Plus loan rather than ask her to choose somewhere more affordable. Every decision seemed reasonable. None of it felt like a retirement mistake. By 50, Kevin and Lisa have $230,000 saved. Barely $55,000 more than a decade earlier, despite years of contributions and market growth. They panic. They max out everything through their 50s. By 65, $690,000. Until they run the actual retirement projections. The money runs out around 80. They'll need to sell the house, work into their early 70s. That quiet financial anxiety, the kind that follows you into every doctor's visit, every family dinner, every conversation about the future, becomes permanent. Brian takes the recruiter call at 42. New company, different industry, $35,000 more per year. The transition is uncomfortable, worth it. When his car needs replacing, certified, pre-owned, reliable, 3 years old, half the payment of new, Sandra does the same. The house upgrade comes up. Sandra has done the math and pushes back hard. They stay. That $1,600 monthly difference flows directly to retirement accounts. When college arrives, honest, uncomfortable conversations with their kids. Both attend state schools with merit scholarships. Both work part-time. Retirement contributions never stop. Throughout their 40s, Brian and Sandra feel like they're swimming against the current. Their lifestyle looks modest compared to their peers. They don't talk about it much at dinner parties. By 5,500, $60,000 saved. Aggressive saving plus market returns more than tripled their balance in 10 years. By 65, $1.58 million. House paid off. Brian retires at 61, Sandra at 63. Real freedom. The kind where unexpected expenses are annoying, not threatening. The kind where you don't check prices. The kind where you wake up on a Tuesday morning with nowhere you have to be, and that feels like the reward, not the exception. Same income, different 40s. That's the entire story. And here's what actually bothers me most. During their 40s, both couples felt equally satisfied. Kevin and Lisa didn't enjoy their decade more than Brian and Sandra. They just spent more. The additional consumption bought temporary pleasure and permanent constraint. A few years of feeling ahead traded for decades of falling behind. Now, based on where you currently stand, here's what this actually means for you. If you're in your 20s or 30s, you have something rare: advance warning. You can see the trap before you're standing in it. Build automatic retirement contributions you never reduce. Decide what enough looks like before your income makes excess feel normal. The habits you build now are the ones that will either protect you or betray you when the pressure hits in your 40s. If you're entering your 40s, you are at the most consequential financial inflection point of your life. Not when you retire. Right now. Pick up that recruiter call. Keep the car another 3 years. Stay in the house that's already working. Ask yourself honestly, is every major spending decision moving you toward retirement, security, or away from it? Because every yes to lifestyle expansion is a no to retirement. Freedom. Those two things are always trading against each other, even when it doesn't feel that way. If you're in your late 40s and recognizing yourself in Kevin and Lisa's story, you still have real leverage. Every percentage point added to your savings rate from here changes the outcome in ways that matter. Downsizing housing now before retirement forces your hand, releases equity, and cuts monthly costs simultaneously. A career move that pays $30,000 more per year for the next decade is worth the discomfort. The pain of change now is cheaper than the constraint of inadequate savings for 30 years. If you're already past your 40s with insufficient savings, focus on what remains within your control. Delay Social Security as long as financially possible. Every year you wait past 62 increases your monthly benefit significantly. Working 2 to 3 years longer simultaneously adds to savings and reduces the years those savings need to cover. Downsize housing to release equity. These aren't small moves. Each one shifts the trajectory in ways that genuinely matter. Here's the psychology underneath all of this, and I want you to really sit with this part. By your 40s, you feel like you've earned the right to finally live well. 20 years of working, building, grinding, the impulse to enjoy success feels completely justified. And here's the trap inside that impulse. The gratification you're chasing through lifestyle expansion doesn't last. People adapt to upgraded living standards within 18 to 24 months. The new house becomes the baseline. The nicer car becomes just a car. The expensive vacation fades in 6 months. The hit to your compounding lasts 20 years. Real gratification isn't found in consuming your peak earning years. It's found in converting them into permanent freedom. The person who resists lifestyle inflation in their 40s doesn't experience deprivation. They experience options in their 60s and 70s, when options matter more than at any other point in life. The person who inflated their lifestyle experiences something else. A retirement defined by what they can no longer afford. Quiet, persistent, inescapable financial anxiety in the decades that were supposed to be the reward. The discomfort of discipline lasts 10 years. The reward lasts 30. The pleasure of indulgence lasts 2 or 3 years. The consequence lasts 30. That is not a fair trade. And most people make it anyway because the pleasure is immediate and the consequence is distant. Picture yourself at 72. Morning, quiet house, coffee on the table. In one version of that morning, you're thinking about which grandkid you're visiting next month. You're planning a trip you've always wanted to take. An unexpected bill is annoying, not threatening. You wake up without an alarm. You spend money without checking the account first. You're not waiting for anything to be over. You're just living. And that feeling, that specific feeling of having nowhere you have to be and nothing you have to worry about, that is what your 40s were actually building toward. In the other version, you're running the numbers again. Medication costs versus heating bills. Whether the car survives another winter. Feeling the particular weight of a future with limited options and no easy answers. Wondering if you should call your kids, then deciding not to because you don't want them to worry. Both versions of that person made their choices between 40 and 50. Both thought those choices were completely reasonable. Both were just living their lives. Gary, from the beginning of this video, made reasonable choices too. Every single one of them. He never felt irresponsible. He felt like he was living well, and he stocks shelves at 68 because of it. Your 40s will end. That is guaranteed. The decade passes whether you're intentional or not. The only question is which version of yourself you're quietly building while it's happening. Not through luck, not through income, through decisions about career vehicles, lifestyle, education, and housing that compound exactly like money does. In one direction or the other, every single year. That's not a burden. That's the most powerful financial leverage you will ever have. Don't waste it.